You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. Parents have welcomed the news that their 6 to 11-year-old children are to be vaccinated against COVID-19. Prime Minister Hun Sen made the surprise announcement on Wednesday. This next phase of the kingdom's child vaccination program will start on Friday morning with an official kickoff at the Peace Palace, which EAC News will broadcast live. The Prime Minister says vaccinating 6 to 11-year-olds is aimed at getting primary schools reopened as soon as possible. EAC News reporter Yuri Matosko hit the streets of Phnom Penh on Thursday to speak to parents and their young children.
From Friday, 1.8 million children between the ages of 6 and 11 will be vaccinated. The campaign makes Cambodia one of only 3 countries in the world vaccinating younger people, after China and Chile. Prime Minister Hun Sen posted an audio message on his Facebook page on Wednesday, declaring the decision was based on studies in many countries. He also said the kingdom has enough vaccines in hand to vaccinate the 1.8 million children in this age group. EAC News took to the streets to ask children if they were scared of needles.
I'm so happy I don't scary. I want to go to study.
I'm not scared. I'm happy to go back to school because I've missed my friends, my teachers, and I miss school.
The thought of going back to school makes me happy and excited. I'm happy to get vaccinated against COVID-19.
Parents told EAC News that they are just as pleased.
I feel happy that the government has launched a vaccination campaign for young children to let them go back to school. I want them to go back to school as normal because they haven't studied for a long time.
I am glad that the government has provided vaccines for children to let them go back to school. I am very happy to let my kids return to school because when they stay at home, they are always playing.
I'm excited to let my kids get vaccinated to protect them from COVID-19, especially the Delta variant. My kids were also very happy when they watched the announcement on TV. I'm very thankful to the Prime Minister for providing the vaccines for my children.
The Ministry of Health has already issued a list of vaccination sites. First shots will be administered from Friday until the 13th of October. Second doses will go into arms from the 8th of October. The birth certificate or passport must be presented in order to receive the jabs. The fear of the needle won't hold up the children's excitement to be finally back at school. They are one of the last groups of students that still needs to be vaccinated. The government says it now has plans to vaccinate children from 3 to 5 years old, but no start date of that phase of the kingdom's vaccination campaign has yet been given. Yuri Matosko, EAC News, Phnom Penh.
You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. The body of a missing teenager who was caught in a storm while sea fishing with his father off the coast of Pria Sihanouk has been found by authorities. The Tumpun Rolok Police Force, in cooperation with the District Unity Command Force divers and a GTV speedboat team, found the boy's body at around 6 p.m. on Wednesday. Father and son had gone fishing off the coast of Stung Hav district on Tuesday. In rough seas and heavy rain, the boat capsized, throwing the two into the water. 47-year-old Miek Siek managed to make it safely to shore, but there was no sign of his 14-year-old son, Son Makara. Local authorities immediately launched a search team to find him, with locals also heading into the water to see if they could find him. The storm brought flash flooding to the area as well. The weather office has warned that the country will continue to experience heavy rain for much of the next week. You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. There are signs Cambodia's economy is starting to bounce back as restrictions ease and more people get out and about. The Ministry of Economy and Finance's General Department of Taxation collected 10.6% less in taxes over the first 8 months of the year when compared to the same period in 2020. But figures for August are promising, as EAC News reporter Yuri Matosko explains.
The taxman collected $1.9 billion in taxes between January and August, 10.6% down on the same period last year. But that's come as no surprise to Cambodia Chamber of Commerce Vice President Linh Heng. He believes the drop can be attributed to two main factors: less businesses activities due to the lockdown and the tax breaks given by the government to support sectors hardest hit by the pandemic. But the president of the Federation of Associations for Small and Medium Enterprises of Cambodia, Dat Tam Po, believes that business is gradually getting back on track. In August, for example, $192.3 million were collected in taxes. That's up 12.71% on August 2020. Another positive sign is the approval of the free trade agreement between Cambodia and China. Tam Po believes the CCFTA will expand Cambodia's international trade. It's expected to be signed next month. Yuri Matosko, EAC News.
You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. In advance of the 30th anniversary of Cambodia's Paris Peace Agreement, the U.S. Embassy in Phnom Penh is hosting a virtual speaker program. It is discussing developments in the kingdom 3 decades after that historic agreement was signed. Thursday's speaker was award-winning author and journalist Elizabeth Becker. EAC News reporter Rhea Soko attended the event.
American author and journalist Elizabeth Becker has detailed how Cambodia has developed after the Khmer Rouge. The United States Embassy, which hosted the program, says the Comprehensive Cambodian Peace Agreement, commonly referred to as the Paris Peace Agreement, was signed by 19 countries on 23 October 1991 and is a remarkable example of multilateral diplomacy that ended Cambodia's decades-long civil war. Becker says the peace accord started well in Cambodia. From being a picture of a war-torn country, Cambodia all of a sudden became a symbol of tourism with its beautiful attractions such as Angkor Wat. Becker recalled her own experience in France during the negotiation process.
First and foremost, it ended the war. I cannot exaggerate how miraculous that felt. I was in Paris during these negotiations, and I can tell you, it seemed as if mountains had to be moved to get everybody to agree. But they did agree, and this is what they agreed to: that Cambodia would be a democracy guided by the rule of law, that the citizens would elect representatives in free and fair elections, and those representatives would sit in the parliament, that the political system would include a full respect for human rights, the judiciary would be independent.
But in her opinion, that is not the country Cambodia is today. When it comes to the government's response to COVID-19, the government is really monitoring and the information coming out from social media and news sites. Do you think Cambodia still has the fundamental rights to freedom of expression, which is also in accordance to the Paris Peace Agreement that signed by Cambodia 30 years ago?
No, it doesn't. I mean, that's clear. I mean, every week I read in the Cambodian press that so-and-so has been arrested because the Facebook post was considered not good for the security of the country, and the definition of what is good for the country keeps getting narrower and narrower and narrower. So you don't know if you can publish this. It's way over policed, and you see that in demonstrations too. You have it's freedom of speech on social media, in the streets. It's disappearing.
Cambodian People's Party spokesperson Suk Asan told EAC News that it is Becker's right to express her own opinion based on what she knows, but says the content of her statements is not linked to the reality of what is happening in the kingdom as she is not physically here. In response to recent accusations that it is clamping down on freedom of speech and protests, the royal government has repeatedly stated affiliation with a particular organization or group cannot be a license to break the law with impunity. More recently, Prime Minister